What if you could walk a single street and witness the entire story of Texas unfold? From dusty wooden shops that vanished in fire to grand capitals rising from the plains, these photos don't just show the past. They reveal how a raw frontier became a living legend. One block, one family, one parade at a time.
Rough Riders Parade, San Antonio. In 1898, the Rough Riders assembled in San Antonio for a parade that echoed with pride and purpose. Flags waved, horses lined the streets, and citizens filled every balcony. It was more than a military display. It was Texas declaring itself ready for the world stage. Courage wasn't a rumor here. It was visible. Alamo Plaza. By 1898, Alamo Plaza had become a modern crossroads. Streetcars, carriages, telegraph poles, and pedestrians converging in organized chaos. The Hugo and Schmelzer building looms above, commerce humming below. Once the site of revolution, now the stage of routine. Texas hadn't forgotten its past. It had simply learned how to move forward. Smithson and Harris Sign Shop in Dallas. In 1896, the Smithson and Harris Sign Shop in Dallas painted more than just words. It shaped identities. With bold letters, brick walls, and proud craftsmen, this photo captures a Texas stepping into branding, business, and permanence. Signs told people where they were. These men told the world who they were. San Antonio Steam Laundry. In the heart of San Antonio around 1895, the steam laundry offered modern convenience on 4 wheels. Horse-drawn delivery wagons lined up with precision, branding proudly displayed. Clean clothes, clean lines, and clean ambition. This wasn't just laundry. It was progress dressed in cotton and horsepower.
Texas State Capitol, Austin. By 1895, the Texas State Capitol towered over Austin, proud, vast, and built from the dreams of a young state. In front, a simple wagon and its riders remind us, even as marble rose, the people remained grounded. This wasn't just government, it was Texas, written in stone and soul. Judge Roy Bean with cyclists, Langtree. In the dusty town of Langtree, around 1895, the legendary Judge Roy Bean stands among a crowd, including early bicyclists and local families. His saloon courtroom behind him, bicycles beside him, Bean seems caught between 2 worlds, the outlaw West he ruled and the modern age rolling in on 2 wheels. San Antonio Street, New Brownsville. By 1895, San Antonio Street in New Brownsville reflected a new era. Sidewalks, store windows, and second-story balconies framed a town no longer frontier, but thriving. Carriages moved slowly past quiet shops, and the wildness of the West gave space to routine. This was Texas, dressed for the 20th century. The Bryson family, Liberty Hill. Taken in 1894, this portrait of the Bryson family is more than a portrait. It's a legacy. Generations gather in front of their home, some standing proud, others seated in silence. In their eyes, the story of the land. Hardship, faith, unity. This is how Texas was truly built, together.
Moving a hotel across the plains. In 1893, towns weren't just built, they were moved. This photo shows a full hotel being relocated from Dimmitt to Plainview by teams of horses and raw determination. Dust swirls, wagons strain, and a new Texas rises, not with blueprints, but with rope, wheels, and willpower. XIT Ranch, Channing. At the vast XIT Ranch in 1892, cowboys take a break beside their chuck wagon. Coffee pots, hats tilted, and horses in the distance tell the story without words. This was life on the range, raw, rhythmic, and ruled by sun, dust, and grit. No clock, just duty and horizon. Lover's Retreat, Lone Camp. Tucked between cliffs and trees in 1892, this quiet corner of Lone Camp was known as Lover's Retreat. Women in dresses gather by the stream, some seated, some hidden in shadow. It's a rare moment of softness in the rough Texas landscape, where even wild hearts pause to feel peace. Bicycle riders in San Antonio. In 1892, a new kind of wheel rolled through Texas. These young men posed proudly with their bicycles in front of a local grocery beneath a bold ad for iron tonic. Gone were the horses, at least for now. The frontier spirit remained, but its rhythm was picking up speed.
6th Street Rail Construction, Austin. On Austin's 6th Street around 1890, men worked beneath the Texas sun, laying tracks that would carry the city into a new era. Shops advertised candy, boots, and dentistry, signs of comfort growing beside the clang of progress. Here, the frontier gave way to foundation, and the future was being built by hand. Historic downtown Bastrop. By 1890, Bastrop's downtown echoed more with footsteps than hoofbeats. Brick facades, awnings, and electric poles lined the streets. Quiet signs of civilization settling in. No gunfights, no cattle drives, just routine. But in this stillness, a new Texas was rising, one built not by legends, but by everyday lives. Sweetwater Saloon. Outside the Sweetwater Saloon around 1890, these men posed with grit and swagger, the dust still fresh on their boots. 5-cent beer, tilted hats, and worn-out railings paint the true face of frontier fellowship. This wasn't just a bar, it was a refuge, a ritual, and a rite of passage. Cowboys at the end of a cattle drive. Around 1890 in Amarillo, these cowboys posed atop a train car celebrating the end of a long, dusty cattle drive. Boots off, hats raised, laughter in the air. This was their victory lap. A moment of pride frozen in time where iron rails met raw grit and the West tipped its hat.
Snowman in Fort Worth. In Fort Worth, 1889, a rare Texas snowfall became a family memory. Gathered proudly around a massive and slightly eerie snowman, this group reminds us that even in the dust and heat of frontier life, there was laughter, winter magic, and the timeless joy of simply being together. Congress Avenue, Austin. On Congress Avenue, around 1888, a marching band parades past storefronts advertising oysters and game. Horse-drawn carriages share the street with onlookers in bowler hats. Captured by S.B. Hill, this moment blends music, movement, and civic pride, showing a Texas that was no longer frontier, but already capital. The Modern School, Stephenville. In 1886, education rose from stone in Stephenville. This modern school, with its tall windows and serious facade, stands proudly behind a sea of children, boys in boots, girls in bows. It's more than a building, it's a declaration. The next Texas wouldn't just ride or fight, it would think. John Campbell Ranch. At the John Campbell Ranch in 1886, a family gathers by a wooden gate, framed by trees and quiet land. The porch stretches wide under the Texas sun, a symbol of simple living and deep roots. Here, the frontier wasn't battles or towns, it was home, and home was everything.
Bauer & Co., Pleasanton. In Pleasanton, 1886, Bauer & Co. stood tall with its stone walls and shaded porch, part general store, part community anchor. Signs for shoes and goods hint at a growing town meeting everyday needs. This wasn't just a business, it was where handshakes sealed deals and neighbors became family. Chili Stands, San Antonio.
Long before food trucks, San Antonio's plazas sizzled with open-air chili stands. Around 1885, women known as chili queens served spicy bowls from wagons and makeshift tables, filling the air with heat and flavor. This photo captures more than a market, it preserves the birth of a Texan culinary legend. Skirmish near Fort Hancock. Amid the rugged terrain of West Texas, this 1885 photograph captures a violent clash between U.S. cavalry and Native Americans. Smoke rises between rocks and riders as history unfolds in gunfire. These were moments of fear, survival, and loss, reminders of the deep conflict that shaped the Southwest's painful birth. Dallas firefighters, Central Station. In front of Dallas's Central Fire Station, these men in crisp uniforms pose with pride beside an early fire engine. It's around 1885, and the city is growing fast, and so is its need for order, safety, and service. These firefighters were more than responders. They were guardians of a rising metropolis.
Town Square, Honeygrove. Honeygrove's town square in 1885 buzzed with wagons, horses, and hand-painted signs. Dozens gathered to trade, talk, and stock up at the local druggist or mercantile. In this dusty maze of commerce and conversation, you could feel it. A small town becoming a stronghold of civilization on the prairie. Concho Street, San Angelo. In 1884, Concho Street in San Angelo was a hive of wagons, storefronts, and dust. Signs for blacksmiths, grocers, and saloons lined the road, while the plains stretched endlessly beyond. This wasn't just a street, it was the spine of a growing town, stitched together by grit, trade, and sunlight. Downtown San Antonio. San Antonio's downtown in 1880 brims with storefronts, saloons, and awnings casting striped shadows. A child stands alone in the mud-lined street as carriages pass and signs advertise whiskey and wool. Captured by F. Hardesty, this photo freezes a moment when the Wild West began wearing a city's face. El Paso with Franklin Mountains. In 1880, El Paso stood quiet but determined beneath the looming Franklin Mountains. Wooden storefronts line a dusty street where horses and wagons pause in the shadow of stone giants. Here, the city met the desert and commerce met nature. A frontier town carved between peaks and promise.
Commerce Street Bridge, San Antonio. In 1880, San Antonio's Commerce Street Bridge bustled with horse-drawn carriages and Victorian storefronts. The bold riverside sign stands tall, marking a city on the rise. Iron met river, and progress rolled on wheels. This was no longer a frontier, it was a gateway to the modern South. Empire Livery and Sale Stable, Austin. Captured in Austin around 1880, this photo shows the Empire Livery and Sale Stable, a hub for horses, carriages, and commerce. Men in hats stand proudly beside polished wagons, while others tend to the animals that powered the city. Before engines roared, this is where Austin's movement began. Herman Meyer's Blacksmith Shop. Outside a wooden shop in Cistern, Texas, Herman Meyer and his crew pose beside a horse-drawn carriage. It's 1878, and every village depends on men like these, forging wheels, fixing shoes, keeping the frontier moving. This wasn't just a blacksmith shop, it was the heartbeat of rural Texas. Buffalo hunters at their camp in Texas. In the harsh wilds of Texas, 1877, a group of buffalo hunters rests by their wagon. The fire burns low, rifles lean on branches, and the prairie stretches endlessly behind them. These men weren't chasing glory, only survival, hides, and meat. This was the edge of the frontier, and they lived on it.
Houston Street, Fort Worth. Houston Street in 1876 buzzed with boots, bonnets, and business. The Sun Store stands proudly, flanked by wooden storefronts and curious townsfolk posing for posterity.
Horse-drawn wagons line the dusty road, as electric poles hint at a modern future. Fort Worth was no longer a frontier, it was becoming a city. Old Capitol, Austin, funeral of Governor Hamilton. On April 12, 1875, crowds gathered at the old Texas Capitol in Austin to mourn Governor Andrew Jackson Hamilton, a Union loyalist in a post-war South. The domed building stands solemn as carriages line the hill, flags at half-mast. In this moment, Texas remembered not just a man, but a complicated legacy. Main Street, first photo of Dallas. In 1872, Dallas's Main Street was a dusty corridor of wooden storefronts and handwritten signs. Wagons lined the unpaved road, and business names like Lobenstein Hides, Wool, and Peltries fill the frame with frontier character. It wasn't polished, but it was alive. A city not yet finished, but fully in motion. Main Plaza, San Antonio. In 1872, San Antonio's Main Plaza bustled with wagons, horses, and handwritten shop signs. La Mexicana and San Antonio Bazaar hint at the city's blend of cultures. Dirt streets and wooden wheels marked progress, slow, steady, and pulled by hooves. Here, the Old West wasn't myth, it was Monday.
Market Day in San Antonio. This vibrant 1870 scene captures Market Day in San Antonio, a city pulsing with life. Ox-drawn wagons line the square, men in wide hats haggle over goods, and the stone church watches silently in the background. It's not just commerce, it's culture, grit, and survival woven into every trade. Washington Bullock's house. Captured in post-Civil War Texas, this photo shows the stately brick home of Washington Bullock in Bethel. The porch, lined with solemn figures, reflects a time of quiet recovery and frontier dignity. Behind the picket fence, life moves slowly, but with purpose, in a land still finding its future. Alamo Plaza. This view of Alamo Plaza in 1866 shows a quiet frontier town slowly awakening after the Civil War. Wooden buildings and wagons rest under a hazy sky, while sparse fences hint at past battles and a still untamed land. San Antonio was rebuilding, one porch, one path, one prayer at a time. The Alamo. This rare photograph captures the Alamo mission in San Antonio around 1860, just decades after the legendary 1836 battle. The chapel stands weathered yet resilient, silent witness to a fight that defined Texas independence. This image preserves a sacred space before restoration, still surrounded by everyday frontier life.
The 300 block of Main Street, Houston. In 1856, Houston's 300 block of Main Street was a row of wooden storefronts, captured in what is believed to be the city's oldest surviving photograph. Just a decade later, after fire swept through the area, sturdy brick buildings rose in their place, a signal of rebirth and permanence. Fast forward to today, and this same block hums with modern life, neon signs and rail lines. From dust to steel, from horses to headlights, Main Street didn't just survive, it evolved. First photo of the Alamo. Taken just 13 years after the Battle of the Alamo, this 1849 daguerreotype is one of the earliest known photographs of the site. Faint figures stand before the crumbling facade, unaware they're becoming part of history. The image radiates silence, as if the ground still echoed with the cries of 1836.
Texas wasn't built in silence. It was forged in fire, parades, prayers, and muddy streets. These photographs aren't just windows into the past. They're mirrors of endurance, family, and grit. The dust is settled, the horses are gone, but the spirit, it's still here, riding every rail, echoing down every main street. And now, it's part of your memory too.